Welcome everyone. We are here. It is time. Another very special guest. Look at that. He's already showing off the biceps, the arms. My man Devon Larratt is here. Appreciate you joining us, Devon. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Before we dive into it, I do want to thank our sponsor, ClubGG, where you can download and create poker clubs for free and play each month and win hundreds of thousands of dollars in prizes. I know you know about some gaming and stuff. We'll talk about arm bet a little bit later as well. So I got a lot to ask you. I know you are very busy, so thank you so much for the time today. But first off, could you maybe just introduce yourself? Because this is a poker-centric podcast. Of course, we touch on all different genres and business and areas and stuff. And yours is super unique and exciting for me because I respect it and I'm interested. So tell me about yourself. Give me your whole life in 1 minute. That's the deal.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I'm just trying to get by, man. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get by. I'm the current heavyweight champion of the world for arm wrestling, right-handed. I've been arm wrestling since I was a kid. That's kind of the primary focal point that kind of, gives me something to talk about. Arm wrestling world, my involvement in it. I was a soldier for 20 years. I've got a family. I'm a Canadian. Grew up on a farm. I live a relatively simple life. I travel the world holding people's hands, and I return home and live on my couch and go for walks at night with my dog, and that's pretty much it, man.
Amazing. Well, all right. So yeah, that's a nice overview. I'm ready to dive in because there's a lot there. You're in the Canadian Special Operations Forces Command at 21, correct? 21 years old. You're over there. Is that even before?
I think I was 21. So I think I was 21 when I joined the Army.
Okay.
And I got to the Special Forces when I was 24, 25. And I stayed there for the rest of my career. So I had a 20-year career. So that meant, I guess, I did 16 years in the Special Forces, and it's great.
So explain that to me. You're like poker. You play like you're team sports. You're around. You're on a plane. You're hanging out. You're doing stuff. Is this arm wrestling? Was this something you were you doing arm wrestling? Would you guys like do this for fun, kind of sometimes? And did you know you were always good at arm wrestling, or did this not come till much later? When did you start really arm wrestling?
I've been arm wrestling since I was a kid. Okay. I actually started arm wrestling with my grandmother. So I started arm wrestling probably when I was like 5.
Okay.
That was the deal. She would ask me to do some chore or something, and my reward was that I'd get to arm wrestle her. So,
wow. And was it close for a while, or was it about even at 5, or were you crushing before that? Was she getting smoked?
I never beat my grandmother. Never did. Yeah.
Wow.
She crushed me until she was gone, and now I just have this memory. I arm wrestled through high school through public school, high school, just on desks with my friends, and I wasn't the best. I wasn't the worst. And then after high school, I went out west and I worked oil field. And I was starting to get pretty strong at that point, but that is where I met a professional arm wrestler. And I couldn't believe it. I was like, what? This is a thing? I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, so I followed the dude around like a lost puppy. And
what year is this roughly?
This would be like 94 winter, early winter of 94. So I would have been like 18.
Wow.
Yeah. And I followed him around, just begging for his tutelage, which he eventually gave me. This guy called Devon Larratt, from an arm wrestling family. So at that point, arm wrestling was much more underground than it is now. But he trained me in the basics, trained me how to train in the gym for it, which I was already actively going to. I was an active guy in the gym. And then I moved back to Ontario, found out that the scene was here, alive and well. I ended up joining the Army, and at that point, I was deep in the sport, and I stayed involved right till now, right till present.
All right, so many questions, so much. Just I don't even know where to start. But so when you didn't know you liked arm wrestling, you and your grandmother arm wrestled since you were a kid for chores, which is pretty cool. And you then meet someone and you find out he's a professional arm wrestler. What was the tour like then? Like, how has it changed from then to now? But give it to me first. What was it like then when you did find out that this was a real profession, or how someone was doing this for a living?
Super underground, right? Like that was, I met Dion, who was my first coach, in 1994, in like January of 1994. And at that time, like, I mean, it was on TV at times, and there was Over the Top that it already made, but this is pre-internet, right? So like, like people, you had to know somebody, or like, you got a flyer in the mail. Like it was
Fight Club. It was it was real low key. Okay. And what was it? Give me like the world championship at this time. Like, was there a grand prize? Were people getting sponsorships and deals at all back then? Or was it just sort of like an extra hobby you did along with whatever else you were doing?
Way more hobbyish then, for sure. Like there were world championships already. There was some leagues that had been running for a long time, and they did hold kind of an annual cycle where there was provincials, nationals, worlds, but it was so cult and so small and so underground. Like you basically had to be some guy or girl who was crazy about arm wrestling and challenged everybody you knew until eventually you somehow made it to like some level boss or something who actually was connected to this world.
Wow.
Yeah. Cool. Very underground. And like everything has come so far, like the technical aspects of it, the training. I mean, back then, there was like, you really had to find somebody who knew anything. Now, like, guys come into the club. Like now when people come to us, they know more than what 5-year guys knew like back when I was arm wrestling.
When you say that, it reminds me of poker. You talk about like Doyle Brunson, these guys that were like legends of the game that played and would go around driving the games and play, and you see a few hands. Whereas like online poker, right? You can see a kid now who's 18, 19, 20, 21 years old can see what someone maybe saw in 10 years of playing, like back in the day, at a casino, they see in like a month or something. Yeah. It's similar, right? Like everything. Yeah. It's like we're in the Matrix, right? It's just like constantly evolving, improving. Things are getting sharper, quicker, more information, more technology. It's definitely a wild time. But so you then find this out, you get into it, and just I hop around. My mind goes everywhere. I don't have a structured layout. I just have so many questions. But you were in Afghanistan deployed, I believe, 7 times. Is that correct? And you were actually wounded, I believe, shot or hit with shrapnel. Could you maybe tell me what happened there? How that seems pretty insane.
Yeah. Well, it was wild times, Afghanistan. I was really, like when I look back, I'm really pleased with everything I got to do. If I was still as healthy as I could be, I'd probably still be doing it. But Jody's here.
And you're single.
Hello, right. Hi Jody. Your wife's our professional arm wrestler too, or was? I know she's not.
She was, yeah. Like there was a period when she was actually ranked #1 in North America. Wow. In her division. But yeah, she's an actor. So, but producer, writer, she's in that world. So, but yeah, she graces us every once in a while, and she still occasionally comes to practice. And it's hard not to know about arm wrestling when we live in the same house. So
right, yeah. And what about your 3 kids? You have 3 children, I believe. Do they arm wrestle? How old are they?
Yeah, so they all arm wrestle. They've I think that most of them went to their first competition probably before they were 2 years old, like all of them. Yeah. The one actually, Auden, he's the middle one. He actually trains for it. So he trains with me in our little gym here. He goes to practice whether I'm there or not. So he's very motivated to do well in the sport. He loves fighting and everything. So yeah, he's got the arm wrestling bug. The other two are kind of just kind of by proximity, it just kind of washes over them. Right. But yeah, they're all good. But Auden, the 17-year-old, like, he's going to practice tonight without me. So
right. That's very cool. And looking at looking back though, like, what was that experience? What year was that? During the 7 times you were deployed to Afghanistan, like, what years was that over? How long of a period?
So I think that probably around from like 2003 till like 2011 or 12, I think. Yeah, 11, I think, somewhere around there. Yeah, it's all quite a haze for me. I'll tell you, I spend very little time looking back at it, but it was a fantastic time in my life. I worked with some of my favorite people. Some of my most inspirational moments come from those deployments. I got to see some truly just incredible acts. The coordination, the planning, the precision, all of it, to be part of it. It's definitely one of the highlights of my life. There's so much I can say about it, but yeah, it's in the past for me now. I mean,
the time you got wounded, was it the last one, or was it in the middle?
No, it was early on. Yeah, I got shot and fragged a couple times on one of the missions. Was a real doozy. Like, we were so we do, well, you never know really what you can say and what you can't say. Mm-hmm. But there was one mission that went particularly not as planned.
Yeah.
And we got it's just such a disaster, like when you work overseas and when you work with these units that are, very specialized, we really try to stack all the odds in our favor all the time. And we try to, obviously we only want to win. There is no when you think about gambling and sports and war, they're different. They're different.
Yeah, the chance, the risk that you're talking about different types of chance.
Yeah. And you do everything you can to only achieve victory, right? Like, you're not going into a place kind of like, well, we might win this one, we might not. You're you're going to win every single fight that you get into.
Right.
But sometimes, whether if the target's juicy enough and depending on who's making the shot, calling the shots, you might be a little bit more risky, and sometimes you win, and then sometimes you learn a lot. And we learned a lot on some of them. On some of them, they didn't go so well. But I'll tell you, I was raised as an not religious, but it's crazy how lucky we can be. Mathematically, I can't explain it. The level of luck that our unit had is. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, I mean, when I try and compute it, try and add it all up, to me, we are luckier than logic would say is possible. We're luckier. Like, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't even like to talk about what I believe in because I have no idea. But
right.
But I'll tell you, man, there's some weird stuff going on in the world, and I'm lucky to be here. A lot of us are lucky that we're alive, and you sometimes wonder whether when you think about the multiverse, that there's a lot of dead ones of me out there.
Right. Well,
I'm the lucky one. I'm the lucky one.
It's an interesting point, not to tie everything to poker, but that is one thing that I believe poker really teaches is the variance, because you're just constantly in these like 80-20s, 70-30s, 95-5s, right? And so like you're taking all these different statistics and like hand probabilities that are colliding on a daily basis if you're playing tournaments or cash games. And like you said in there, and that's the crazy part is like it's an analogy in my mind for life, but like you're talking about, you know, you're saying you're lucky. Who knows? Like what we're talking about, you know, you get a bullet in your hand versus like spray, you know, you're talking like you're like you're saying, you're lucky. You know, like it could be different in inches or a split second, or, you know, a guy catches you off guard in a spot where like he just turns the corner in the right. Like that's the kind of stuff that's really wild. I'm sure that's what you're talking about. There's
some of the things there's skill. Some things there's skill. Some things there's no skill. It's just a randomizer, and you know, when the odds are against you over and over and over and over and over, and somehow you just continue to get by, it starts to make you think, right? It starts to make you wonder, like, been missed more times.
Right. Yeah. Like you say, like it's like it's out of your control. The guy's got a free or whatever. You got a shot on you, or you're kind of in open water or something, and you're just sort of No, it's. I mean, again, we could talk forever about this stuff. It's pretty. Look, we're happy. I'm amazing you're here. It sounds like you said like you've gotten a lot of learning experiences. You've been through, seen a lot, done a lot, and I do see that you noted if this is, you know, you would say that your military service, you credit a lot of the experience gained, you know, a large part of your success. I mean, you've learned so many lessons, like you said, so many probably inspirational stuff that's happened, people doing unbelievable acts of kindness or you know, sacrifice and whatnot. So is that fair to say that a lot of your success like you picked up through these experiences?
I still have a lot of friends who are active, and you know, you do miss it. You really do. It's hard. Like, you know, we play these games, like, you know, whatever we do. And my father used to say that all sports are derived from war. So like in some way, all these sports, all these things, they have an application on the battlefield. And I always thought, like when I was serving, that I was doing kind of like the highest level of being a fighter that I could possibly be. You know, and I know, like looking back, it's kind of an elitist way to think, but for my life, it's true. For my life, this was my highest expression, and it was the most adrenaline that I could possibly harness.
Right.
But you know, now, you know, I get my kicks from one of the ways I get my kicks is on the arm wrestling table. Still, I still love it, and I'll probably arm wrestle until I die.
And I gotta ask, speaking of arm wrestle and arm bet, we see here this beautiful looking table. Does this kind of, speaking about like the Matrix and how things have progressed, I mean, the table just looks really clean and nice and fresh and crisp. You know, like probably thinking about all the times you've arm wrestled and you're in bars or with friends or on a school desk or somewhere to look at this. I mean, this looks like a masterpiece. Like, tell me about this table right here. Is this something? I mean, how long has this been around? How much does a table like this cost? Like, give me a little bit of the it just feels very nice, right? Like it just seems really clean.
A professional arm wrestling table is super clean. Like this is what, you know, the competitions are typically on. These tables have been around forever. Mm-hmm. Like the table evolves from time to time. There'll be small steps, but what you see there is a very standard arm wrestling table. I mean, the arm wrestling table to me actually isn't that important. Like I've arm wrestled so much. I like arm wrestling on tables. I love the arm bet table, but I'm fine to arm wrestle anywhere. Like I still like arm wrestling on countertops and bars. To me, it doesn't really change the outcome that much. Right. It really doesn't.
Right.
I mean, the winner is probably going to be the same on a bar tabletop as it is on a professional arm wrestling table.
Right.
Yeah.
How much I've watched some of your YouTube videos, and I've seen, you know, like there's times where you're wrestling and you got you're it almost seems like you're letting people wear themselves out. Like you're not even, where you're just kind of like letting them do it and you're just sort of sitting there? Like, can you explain your style, your strategy, and you're known for extremely powerful stamina. It's like, is that sort of like one of your best attributes? Is that fair to say?
Yeah. In my peer group, I've always, if I have one strength, it's notably that it's endurance,
Right.
Which is not the thing that you really want as an arm wrestler. You want strength, but
Okay.
typically if the match stops, I typically will win. Now, what you'll see a lot is you'll see me training with people, and
Okay.
when I train, you will rarely see me pin anybody, because
Okay.
what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to absorb energy, right?
Mm.
I'm trying
Yeah, that's
to
what I've
get,
seen some of those. Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get you to give me as much as you can, and I will just, I'll it's my workout, right? So I won't pin. I'll put myself in actually unfavorable positions so that you can even give me more energy, and I'll have to fight harder.
Right.
But in competition, there's another thing that happens. So depending on the way that the competition is structured, some competitions are tournaments where you'll have to face a field, and other competitions are like one-on-ones. And most of the high level stuff nowadays, it's one-on-one.
Okay.
Okay, so you and I would have a match, and there would be a format. So we might do 6 rounds, so that permits that there's a tie, or we would do like 3 out of 5. This is the typical format.
Okay.
Either 3 out of 5 or 6. There are other formats, but this is very normal. And
go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, and then what happens is you have strategies. So a lot of times people will try and pin each other, but typically, depending on your strengths, you might not ever want to pin your opponent. Yeah. So I have this little tattoo I like. I don't know if you can see that.
Okay. Yeah, I see it. What does it represent?
So I prefer to have people give up. It's way better.
That makes,
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. And you're can you explain the left and right hand? Like, are you do both, or are you right hand? Like, how is there a difference in prestige?
yeah.
Is there more, what percentage are right and left? Give me some arm wrestling stats.
Well, so first I'm gonna brag a little bit.
I like it. Go for it.
I'll say that I was the first guy in kind of modern history to be ranked #1 in the open weight, right and left hand at the same time. Okay.
Wow, that's
Which
crazy.
it's difficult to do. Now, after I broke the ice on it, I feel like almost every super heavyweight champ is kind of done it, but I was the first guy.
Wow.
But so now I'm 47, and I've discovered that things change as you get older, and I still want to compete at the highest level possible, and I have undertaken a very controversial and interesting experiment with my body. I call it Way of the Giant Pumpkin. And in this training system, I only train my right hand. That's it.
Okay.
And it's been that way for 3 years. So for 3 years, I have only trained my right arm. Yeah, it's very non-standard. The right arm is considered the prestigious arm. Like a lot of leagues, I mean, when you talk about arm wrestling, like in the old days, like 15 years ago, 20 years ago, and prior, there were arm wrestling tournaments, and they'd only give money for the right arm. This is how it was. And then we went through a period where the right and left arm became equal, and then we reverted back to where the right arm once again was kind of considered the money arm.
Right.
You know,
how big a difference is it? Well, percentage wise, like, I mean, is it versus like being right and left handed? I mean, is it because like most people are right handed? I would say, right? I don't know.
Yeah, most people are right handed.
Is that the same for? Is that why for?
I don't know why it is the way it is. That could be a very simple explanation. I mean, the right hand is considered, I would say, the more glorious arm. So if you had a right hand champion and a left hand champion, the right hand champion would probably be paid more, have more prestige. There's just more. There's more events and more prize money being offered on the right side.
Right.
Yeah, so I made a conscious decision 3 years ago just to basically abandon the left. I call it my party arm. It's just whatever. I don't. It's just around.
Yeah.
And yeah, I go all in on the right. Yeah, because I want to still try to go at the highest level possible. And I find that as I age, recovery, it's a really fascinating experiment. Like I could go on and on about it, but it allows me to optimize this arm, more than if I was working too.
And Brady's 44, obviously insane what's happening. He comes back, he's still going deep and being effective, one of the best. There are others. People are starting to be longer at the highest level. Give me a little bit of a lifespan of a career for arm wrestling, or is it literally
You're gonna love this because we are like the best at longevity out of any sport in the world.
Wow.
Yeah, we are the best when it comes to longevity. So I'm 47, and I'm probably, with my right hand, I'm probably as good as I've ever been, if not better.
Wow.
And this is quite a common statement, actually. I'd say that there's a lot of arm wrestlers between 40 and 50 that are crushing it. But I have to tell you the story about this one guy. So when you talk about the bell curve of the population, right? Like, there's not a lot of super heavyweights, just genetically, there's just not many. I'd say most people, if you just look at the population in North America, there's a ton of dudes walking around like 175 pounds, a ton of them. Mm-hmm. So if you are number one at 175 pounds, you are really good. Like, I would say it's actually probably harder to win at 175 than it is at open, because winning at open has a lot to do with the birth lottery. Okay, so if you're a big dude, but there's fewer of you. So at 175, you have to be very good. So, I'd say about 4 years ago, the best guy on the planet at 176 was like a 67 or 68-year-old guy from Ontario.
Wow.
Yeah, 67 or 68. And now he's 72. And this guy just won the Nationals at 72.
But so you're not competing with him because you're in a different weight?
No. I'm not competing with him. But so he won the Nationals, and then he beat the national champion in the overall division. Yeah. Wow. It's insane.
Where are you in that? Like, in the overall, like, are you in the?
I'll beat all of them. No, but I don't even show up at that tournament.
Okay, but because why? Just because that's not in the. It's a different level of.
Well, typically, so I would consider myself to be like a pro. Okay, so normally when I go places, there's money involved. And the Nationals, it depends on the country you live in. Okay, so Canada, US, we do not recognize arm wrestling as a sport. Okay. We don't. So that means you can win the Nationals, go and win the World Championships, and the government is going to be like, "Oh, good job," whatever. They're not going to care. But if you're like from Kazakhstan or Bulgaria, you're going to receive government compensation.
Is there talks of it being an Olympic sport?
Yes.
I would think there has to be. How could it not be?
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure we'll get there. And when that happens, then this discussion will change. And then the nationals and the provincials will become very relevant again for North American athletes. And look, this system is very relevant. It just depends on the country you're from. But in Canada, I haven't attended the nationals since like 99 or 2000. Like, yeah, I haven't gone in like 20 years.
Because it's not for like, why not though? Why not just go and pick up the title?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of a,
is it why? Because there's already so much travel and different events you're going to, you just can't do it. You're going to be you'd be on every weekend doing something, right?
Busy. Yeah. Like, I have to pick and choose where I go. It's interesting. When I first got in the sport, I was attending those tournaments. I was going provincials, nationals, worlds. Okay, that's all. When I first started, that's kind of what I knew. And my coach, and then there was a tournament like down the road from where we lived, and it had like a $500 entry fee. And on my, sorry, not entry fee, $500 cash prize. Okay, which back then was great. Okay, back then, like 20 some years ago, $500 was a lot. And my coach says to me, he's like, Devon, he's like, you're gonna see something different at this event. And I'm like, well, isn't this guy gonna win? This guy's gonna win. He's national champion. He's gonna win. He's like, Devon, he's like, there's money pullers. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, these guys, they don't show up at tournaments where there's not money. So it's just a different level. Like,
well, give me an idea of like, so what's the Super Bowl for you every year? What is it? What time of year? Where is the event?
It changes. It changes. Okay. Yeah, well, it changes because what you're trying to do is you're trying to go after the biggest and the best events, and it's not always the same. So right now in 2022, I would say that there's two. When you talk about the top of the world, like the top of the world of arm wrestling, there's King of the Table, and that's out of Dubai. That's run by Larry Wheels, Core Sports. That's their tournament. Mm-hmm. And that's where you're going to see like the biggest matches. Okay. Like the biggest one-on-ones. Then you have,
when is that? When is the next one, for example? What time?
The next one, I think they have like 3 or 4 a year. I think the next one is in, March, maybe March.
So will you go to that or not necessarily? It depends.
If I don't go to that one, I'll go to the next one. But there's another league that's right there with them, and that's East versus West. Mm-hmm. And East versus West is an insane production that's just, it's run by like this guy. Wow, I couldn't say enough about this guy Engen Terzi. Like he's arm wrestling's encyclopedia. He is without question one of the highest level players, highest athletes that the sport's ever produced. And he switched from kind of being an athlete to promoting, and he knows everyone respects him, and he's got now Core Sports is working with him, and they do an event probably every 2 months or so, and that's in Turkey. Yeah, okay. Istanbul. Yeah, so those two, King of the Table and East versus West, and they've got social, like you can follow East versus West, you can follow Engen, you can obviously Larry Wheels is more popular, everybody kind of knows what's up. Core Sports is the pay-per-view that streams both of them. Those are the top of the world. That right now is our pinnacle. There's World Arm Wrestling League, which was, kind of the pinnacle before the pandemic shut them down. There's a lot of rumors that says that they're coming back. We will see. If they come back, I'm sure that they will make some serious waves. And there's a lot of one-ofs and like leagues that are kind of around, pushing and promoting, and there's a lot. So basically there's a whole world of arm wrestling. Like every single weekend there's events. Every country, all over the world.
And where does North America rank with the rest of the world? Is there any countries that are sort of like known, in poker, it's like, oh, they stereotype people like the Asians or the Brazilians or the French play this way. Is there like a style North America versus, like you mentioned, maybe in Dubai or certain areas of the world that they're better and stronger left arm, right arm, or big different weight classes, or just power, endurance? Like what are some stereotypical stuff within the sport?
Sure, man. Yeah, there's tons. So right now, I would say we are in an interesting period because a lot of times when you have a champion, it's like, yeah, he's a champ, but there's this guy, there's this guy, there's this guy, there's this guy. Right now, we are in a time when we probably have one of the most dominant super heavyweight champions of all time. I would say that this guy is the best guy to ever arm wrestle. His name's Levon Sagnishvili, and he's a Georgian guy, and he is so strong. It's insane how strong this guy is. Like in a room of like the best arm wrestlers, he will be like several levels higher. Is very strong, very strong.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, look, you're considered to be, you know, one of the greatest arm wrestlers of all time, and also #1 ranked in North America, I believe, currently. Like,
right.
when you say it like that, I mean, are you guys matching up in Dubai in the final? Is it a close match? Like, is it like chess where the best guy's gonna win? Is it any given day? You know, like Morocco beats Spain, beats Portugal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like, give me like an understanding of like how that even matches up with you, like how that would
Well,
work.
so this guy, I will tell you. So I weigh about 265 pounds every day, walking around just normal 265. That's what I weigh. This guy walks around about 420.
Whoa.
Okay,
Shit.
and he's not fat.
Wow.
He's not
Wow.
fat, and
Right.
it's not like a bodybuilder where the muscles are big and the bones are small. It all matches.
Mhm.
Everything matches. Okay. So he's about 1.5 times the size of me.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. Like, so he's a great arm wrestler. So for me to win that match, it's like, it would be a miracle. It would be a miracle. That's why I say this is an interesting time period, because he's separated. So he has raised the bar. Now, what happens when one guy raises it? Everybody will close. Okay, so there are guys, and I'm one of them. I have not taken my eye off the ball. I will arm wrestle until death. Okay, and I'm better now than I was last year, and I think it will continue to go that way. And you never know, what the future holds. But I would say the strongest country right now, because he has the crown. You have to say Georgia, but typically, like when you go through history, like the last 10 years, Georgia, USSR, Russia, Ukraine, kind of the Eastern Europeans are typically thought of as being very, very strong. Whereas I would argue that a lot of the best technicians are from North America. So I would say that probably the guy who's considered probably the greatest of all time, a guy called John Brzenk, kind of the father of modern arm wrestling. He's an American. He probably brought arm wrestling technique to a level, and I'd say that North America holds a lot of the high level arm wrestlers. It's unique. Culture shapes athletes. Nobody starts arm wrestling in North America really for the money. Nobody really does. Everybody kind of starts because they like it. And I would argue that in Europe, in countries where it's recognized, they always have that, there's always that financial undertone. So it shapes people. Typically, the highest level of competitor in North America is older than the typical Eastern European.
But and so but to your point, like, so you believe, like in soccer, you look at these guys' careers and you talk about peak and the age and how would you even, so I mean, in your mind, you have another, like, you're 47, you have another 15, 20 years in arm wrestling where you could be healthy and strong and be at a core level that's possible?
It's interesting. I would say that most athletes will peak, and I'll call it your first peak, between 30 and 35. This is normal. And then what will happen is you will start to break down. Your injuries will become an issue. And then what will happen is there will be a balancing act that is played between how much you love what you do and the pain and the suffering, and is it worth it? And if you still can continue to love it and make it worthwhile for you somehow, on some level, then there's no reason why you can't continue to evolve and continue to make steps forward. But you're gonna, when 30 to 35, normally you hit a peak, and then the game will change. The game will change. But yeah, you see many examples of athletes just continuing to do better and better and better. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons why you want to get out at 35, though.
Right. And that's, yeah, that's super, man. That's super interesting. This guy you mentioned, who was, you've arm wrestled him numerous times. Is that correct? I think at competitions, the guy, John.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
John Brzenk is you. Anybody who knows arm wrestling knows John Brzenk. They made a movie about him pulling John. Actually, the movie Over the Top is actually based off of John Brzenk.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
he
cool.
actually that movie Over the Top, that was a real tournament. It was real. The guy won a truck for the first prize. Yeah, John Brzenk at 18. Yeah, that's John, right? He won that tournament.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
There's your name. Your name pops right up in there.
Yeah. John and I have quite a history. So I actually beat John in 2008 to take the world title from him.
Okay. Wow. So
But
cool.
let me tell you, the sport has evolved. I'm telling you, and it continues to do so. Like the level that John was at, was at a certain place, and then the level that I got to, and now the level of physicality is it's just insane. It's insane. Like, I mean, at 250 pounds, in 2008, very reasonable to be a world champion. Very reasonable. Now, a 250-pound guy to be a world champion, that would be insane. It would be insane. It would be quite a miracle. In the open weight division, obviously, I mean, there's weight classes.
So you mentioned like you thought about considering going down weight maybe, or being in the weight. How many different classes are there? Because this guy, as you said, at a 1.5 your weight, 420 pounds, like, because there's not many people in that weight class anyway, right? So he's just like, yeah, it's like, what is your target weight class right now, and what is that gap of weight?
So right now I hold the 115 kilo world title. So that's 253 pounds, which for me is just perfect. That's a perfect weight for me to sit at, right? Because I walk around like 260, 265, and it's just little water cut, and I can hit that weight all day, any day. I could compete so there's different divisions. Typically, they're spread apart by 5 or 10 kilos. There's 110, 105, and all of those categories are within reach for me. So I used to compete at 225, which I can do. It just means I have to, somewhat take care of my health and, eat a bit cleaner, and which I don't really like to do, but I can.
But you'd be a bigger favorite in theory, right? If you go to 225,
Oh yeah,
you cut down, you're going to be like shredded and as strong as it gets, and you're going to be like actually a bigger weight class that you're coming into to kind of, so that would be in theory a big advantage.
I love weight class arm wrestling. I love it. It's great. Like it's just, but there's so much. Weight classes are there to protect people from these big bullies, which, and I respect that. Like the real crown in arm wrestling, if there's only one, it's the open weight, So it's always tempting to think about yourself two ways, right? I can be the best I can be in a weight category, or I can be the best I can be. So every once in a while, I'll still pull in the open weight division, see how far I can go. But the 115, 110, 105, that's my home. And it'll be really hard to beat me there. Like like I feel like I can live here for a long time, and it'll be tough.
Give me your preparation when you go to like a meet or match. How many days is it? Is it 2 days? Is it 4 days? How many people are you competing against? And what is sort of like preparation in terms of, is it matter? Like when you go show up and it's like, you're ready. Is there meditation before? Is it like, if you're distracted, is it a problem? Are there times when you're not your best, or is it basically like, you come in, you show up, you're ready to go, and people are in trouble? Like when you're going for these world titles and these big meets, like how, like poker, right? You could be distracted at the table. You could be on your phone and not focused. You could be not got a good night's sleep. Be tilted. You could be whatever, right? Like there's factors. What when you're actually arm wrestling, what is the skill differential? If you're better than the guy, like what are some things that could, I'm sure it's happened, right? Where you're like, something happens and you should have won, or you know that you're better than the guy and you don't? Like, could you talk to me a little bit about the dynamics of a match and what can happen and fluctuate within a match?
So
Preparation.
typically,
So, yeah.
typically you will catch wind of an event that suits your fancy months in advance. Typically you'll have a month or 2 months where you'll see the event and you'll decide to go to it. A lot of people will try to start to mentally dominate their opponents right from there, right? So like 2 months out, a month out, weeks out, you're planting all sorts of seeds. You're using social media, because everybody's connected. Everybody sees what everybody's talking about. You'll start to mentally try and mess with people and get them worked up and get them off their plan, and there's all sorts of fun you can have with people. But you'll typically conduct a form of taper. Okay, so like, because you're trying to optimize your fitness and performance for one day. So there's you'll train a little bit harder than you normally would, and then you'll kind of take time off a little bit and you'll rest and you'll come in fresh and strong. If there's a weight category that you're cutting into, you'll probably weigh in 36 hours before the event or so. There'll be a rehydration. There might be a press conference where you talk all sorts of crap. So much of arm wrestling is, if it's a tournament, is efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
You want to make it through that class without any energy. You want to be like win, 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 no time elapsed. But super matches is really where it's at these days. A lot of high-level arm wrestling, it's the art of negotiation. It's what happens before they say go. There's a couple central ideas that make you win. And it's very simple. There's the art of surprise, okay, which in arm wrestling means you were there first. Okay, so it's like there's structural advantages that you can kind of just have, right? And that would be like having your shoulder forward. And you will try and negotiate this position. As well, there's another idea that you will make your opponent come to you. Okay, as in they will grab you. And when they grab you, you can feel their fingers. And you will attack the fingers, because the fingers is the weakest part of your whole system. So there's this negotiation of kind of where you want to be versus attacking weakness, and it's all this stuff happens before they say go, and it's probably one of the biggest parts of arm wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, I mean, what I do before an event is so much of it's homework. Like, people say, oh, you got to be confident. You can't really fake confidence. Like, you actually have to do the work, right? You got it. Mm-hmm. Like, so I make sure that I just train like crazy all the time. Like, I train like 3 times a day, typically, at a minimum.
What does training look like for you? What are you doing?
Say, I am the most simple, refined athlete you might have ever talked to. As in, what that means is I do the same workout 3 times a day, the same way, over and over and over. Like, I will do the same thing. And I know that, you talk to fitness experts and they'll tell you that I'm crazy and they'll tell you that I'm wrong. And I've done a lot of systems. I've been involved with a lot of sports. I've done it a lot of different ways. What I've found is that simplicity is important. Not confusing your body is important. Listening to your body is important. Feeling good is important. And it's about addition. It's about total sum. You add up everything over the course of months and years, and whoever has the biggest pile of work, the biggest body of work, that guy should be confident. Yeah. So
makes a lot of sense.
The things you can do before a match really to make big difference is have your hydration right. Mm-hmm. Consume a lot of salt. Consume a lot of water, hydrate like crazy, be fully energized, have your blood sugar right, breathe a lot, breathe a lot, like, you know, all that Wim Hof stuff. Nothing wrong with that. You know, fill up your body with oxygen. Most people are not killers 24 hours a day. It would be kind of awkward socially, right?
Yeah.
Right. But you have to get there.
You gotta be in war mode, like be ready.
You got to be in war mode.
No friends.
Yeah.
You're not buddy at the thing. You're going
No,
there.
you're going to a fight, right? So for me, that shift is postural. It's a lot of posture shift. So I'm a lazy guy by nature. I slouch, I walk around, I'm sloppy in my movements. But typically within like half an hour, 45 minutes before I fight, I will consciously shift my posture to like combative stances, you know, getting everything tight and right, and just able to react, more reactive posture. And just the posture shift alone starts to make changes in your just the way you behave.
Right.
And
makes a lot of sense. I wonder about like comparing to sort of, again, super niche, but now I would imagine like, you know, I want to ask you about your content stuff as well. You got a successful YouTube channel, a lot of followers, a lot of subscribers, people engaging with your stuff. It seems like you do a lot of your own videos. And is it now more people are making a living from this? Because like swimming, right? Like that, I look at it like that, like how I view it without having any idea. You know, like Michael Phelps, right? There's a few guys like marquee names, the world champions, the best, that are getting in sponsorships, endorsements, capitalizing. Is that similar where there's like a handful, or is it now becoming there's like a league or a tour and people are actually making a living from arm wrestling, like more than just the top few?
Yeah, it's growing. That's all I can really say is it's growing. There's again, so if you're in the right country and you're at a certain level, the government will take care of you. So that's great. So that means in certain countries you got a good number of athletes that are making a living from arm wrestling. If you're in a country that doesn't support it, yeah, you need to be hustling, right? So that means you probably got to have a YouTube. You got to be hitting the big tournaments and making your money. You probably peddling merch. You know, you're probably doing seminars. You know, but you can absolutely do it. There's guys now. I'd say that there's probably a good, I don't know. Actually, it is a small number. It's still small,
right.
But it's growing. But yeah, you can definitely do it. There's a lot of good YouTube channels on arm wrestling now. Some guys have really made it. Like some guys have been extremely successful. So yeah, I mean it's good, and the really good thing is we're trending upwards. We're constantly trending upwards, and so there is money, and I mean the encouraging thing is our fan base has grown.
Right.
Like we used to, like when you go to a tournament like 20 years ago, and you look in the audience, it was arm wrestlers, wives of arm wrestlers, maybe mothers and fathers of arm wrestlers. And now the houses are packed. It's fan. Like, yeah, we got fans.
I think it's similar to like even baseball, you know, Moneyball. Like I'm not a baseball person. Like I don't love it. But when I saw the movie Moneyball, I was like, oh, wow, like super interesting. The pitch counts and the nuances and how much goes behind, or in golf, right? Like I like golf now. I used to think it was silly, stupid. Now I'm like, wow, like, you know, like respecting the top guys that are like that good, that are shooting under scratch, what it takes to get from, you know, shooting 74 to 72 to 63. Like, that difference in strokes, or like in anything, right? Poker, appreciating what the best guys do, like the top 0.01%. They're doing solver work, and like how intricate it is and how it's. So I think it's more about information, respect, and knowledge, right? People start realizing, wow, like arm wrestling, like all the things you're talking about, like what it takes, all the work it goes into it, the little nuances, you know, it's just, it's a lot. You build your own platform, your own network, your own sort of brand, and there's a lot that goes into it. So it sounds like, yeah, it's catching sort of that growth where it's starting, you know. And I did want to ask again about, I know we talked entry, how we got introduced Tyler, you know, State Kings, and just in general, how maybe with this arm bet, you know, State Kings offers it. I know that people are familiar probably on this site because of people selling action for poker tournaments, but here there is action. You can see some people selling out, and here he is, that name. So he's still active. John is on there selling and arm bet.
Directly.
Yeah. Could you explain the arm bet and State Kings, sort of what it does?
Yeah.
participate?
It's super cool. So we predominantly at this time, okay, because the app is still growing, the sport is still growing. So, but right now where we're at is we focus on kind of the premier world level matches, the matches that get the most attention. And we try and have them up there as long as we can before. And it's typically a win-lose unless we believe that the match is a little bit one-sided. And then we'll do a shutout. So that means that the athlete has to sweep to win. And yeah, we'll keep opening up blocks if people want to get involved right up to the point of competition. And yeah, then the winners win and the losers support the winners.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's cool. It's very cool though. I think you said you've noticed an increase in attention and people like engaging, or the fact they go to a match or they watch it and that they get to have a side, no matter how small, but a bit of a sweat to kind of root in interest. You've noticed the difference, and that's been a big change.
I've always been a chronic gambler, always, my whole life. I love to invest in the sport. Like I love the matches, but I love them even more when I've got something riding on it.
Right. Well, I think that's the interesting part too. It's like it could be $1, it could be $2. Yeah. It doesn't have to be like a crazy thing, but it's nice to like put your your money where your mouth is, or have some information and try to make it to put something on it. Sure.
Yeah. And we have an interesting system where there's a slight kickback to the winners as well, so the athletes receive some compensation as well. So that's a nice bonus for them. Which it's
cool.
All the sports, all these activities have their gems that they can teach us. Looking at poker, I mean, I feel like you guys are like master level, like readers of people. Am I wrong?
I mean, yeah, definitely you get to, like, similar to golf, like poker, like I was saying, there's so many real life sort of things that you get pushed into, where like if you're playing with someone at a poker table, let's call it 9-handed or 8-handed, right? 8 guys at a table at a closed space. It's like being at dinner, but you're actually like me and you are playing, right? Where it's like, when you get lucky, how do I respond? If I get unlucky, how do I respond? Am I happy for your success? Am I happy for others? Do I handle my beats well? Like if I'm 95% favorite and I get a bad luck, am I cursing? Am I upset? Am I berating the dealer? How do I treat the staff, like the dealers, the game? You can really learn a lot about people very quickly in this type of environment, because you're getting a lot of different situations that are happening. How people, your success, their success, other people, like, what I mean? Like even golf, like you go and you golf with someone. I don't know if you golf at all. I'm not a big golfer, but even so, if you do, like with a foursome, right? Go 2 and 2, same thing. Like you're competing, you're seeing how like, are guys celebrating your good shots? Are they upset with you? Are they cheating? Like, are they taking, because all these different things, right? Like when you arm wrestle someone too, or the guys in the industry, I'm sure there's little things too, right? Like, oh, that guy's known for like, trying to get the advantage or doing something unethical or whatever, right? There's like things that you kind of learn a lot about people quickly in these type of situations. So I think that's similar. Like I said, you could probably compare a lot of things that are similar, poker or any of these things, but arm wrestling in particular too. Like same thing, right? You've lost before, you win before. How do you handle that? How do you take that? Do you take it and use it for an advantage? Are you negative? Are you are you happy for others? So yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities, and you can take a lot of different things from the game. But that's true for almost anything. Like I said, I just think poker sort of accelerates it in a closed space and a lot of stuff very quickly. Like every hand is a teaching. So that's my thought on it. But you said you don't have much. You like gambling, the thought of action and betting, but you are not per se a poker player, correct?
Oh my God, I'm just so bad at it. I know that I should never do it. I mean, I'm not even that good at calling arm wrestling matches, but that's my area of expertise, so I feel somewhat comfortable doing it.
Right.
But no. I think I told you earlier, when I was a private in the military, my sergeant told me, like, don't bet with the guys on tour, you'll lose everything. Like, I'm like I said, I'm probably the 8 billionth best poker player on the planet.
Right. Well, listen, that's a huge realization, because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of people that think they're one of the best. on the planet, and that's an expensive thing to be
Yeah.
incorrect. You know, just like
Yeah.
yeah. Let's say for someone at home watching that's curious about arm wrestling and they wanted to get involved, or what's like, is there forums? Is there a major site? I know you have your arm
Yeah.
wrestling site as well. Like, what can people do to kind of learn and
Yeah.
get involved?
So if you get on the ArmBet app, not the website, if you get on the app, you will see all the arm wrestlers who are close to you, and you'll be able to message them. There's also tons of arm wrestling like social groups on Facebook or whatever that you know, you can reach out and find. But yeah, the ArmBet app is I think it's a very useful place to start. You'll be able to find people that are close to you, get connected, find clubs, find events, and yeah, that's probably a very easy way to get plugged in. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, arm wrestling is it's all forearm stuff. It's all hands and forearms, and yeah, I mean,
Someone like myself who has zero, definitely need to get back. You know, I'm on, like, I have a lot of work to even begin. Like, how is it a given? Is it a body type? Is it a talent? Like, how much can someone do that has like no prior, just starting from scratch? Like, is it what is the way to get into it? And is there some people just not going to work, right? Like, some people aren't going to be great golfers or skiers or athletes or basketball players. Is it limited, or is that something anyone could get into, really, in theory?
It's very interesting. You know, I'm sure at the highest levels, obviously genetics comes into play, like
Right.
at the highest levels. But at you know, at the club levels, at the provincial levels, even at the national levels, I would say that so much of it comes down to passion and work ethic and study. Like, I've seen people who have immense gifts come into sport, never go anywhere. And then I've seen people who come in and I'm like, oh my God, you're terrible. You should never do this. Go on to become national champions.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's, and I've seen people start late. And have incredible success. Like, guys come into the sport at 35 or 40 and they go on to become world champions. So it's not too late. I would say to everybody that, you know, even just before you find a club or before you start doing it with people, when you go to the gym, there's like a couple movements. This movement where you're driving the hand upwards, very important. This cupping motion, and this pronation, this pronating, turning the palm.
Mm-hmm.
These three motions, rising, cupping, rolling, you need to make them very strong. Yeah.
Is you said, when you do the same 3 workouts a day, basically, is that a lot of that? Like, is it a secret? How, like, what does it consist of?
I'm very open. I'm very open with everything that I do. I go and I give seminars and I tell everybody everything that I think, because, you know, I think that it doesn't matter, right? Like, right. I mean, we are what we leave behind, and that's more important. But when I started arm wrestling and I started to learn about arm wrestling, it was so complicated. Like, at first you're like, oh, this is simple, but then you start to realize that it's very complicated and there's all sorts of things. And, you know, within like 5 or 10 years of me starting the sport, I was doing hundreds of different exercises to mimic every pressure that was possible at different points of the match. And then as time went on and I got more and more serious, I cut until I was basically left with, like, I basically do 2 exercises as a priority, and I do a total of like 5 exercises. That's it. Right. 5 or 6. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Great. So it can, as at the beginning, it's very complicated, but then the further you go, you start to recognize and see the simplicity in it. Yeah. There's a few patterns. There's a few patterns that are played over and over and over. And I would say that for anybody listening and really wanting to understand what's the priority, what's the number one thing, it's debated. It is debated. Okay, what is the number one thing? But I will tell you, if I have to take my vote and cast it, I would say it's something called rising. It's this. It's making the other person hold on to you. They made a movie about it, Over the Top. It's this high ground. It's in any fight, you want to be the guy on top. In war, Star Wars, Air Force, they rule, right? Like the high ground is very important. And it's the same thing in arm wrestling. If you can control the top and make the other person have to drop their hand, the match can be yours. Yeah.
Right. Very
so
true.
it's very, very important, this ability to rise up and to attack the person's fingers. There's a concept in arm wrestling. A lot of times you think about yourself and you think, where am I strong? But this is actually a flawed thought. You only attack weakness. Don't worry about yourself. Just attack weakness. And everybody is weak in very similar ways. It's the fingertips.
Right.
You attack a person's fingertips all the time. You put the pressure in a person's fingertips. You attack the fingertips.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how you win arm wrestling.
And yeah, it's very cool. I got to ask you about your wife, and it says about how strong a human can get, and it's also humbling to be super strong. And what about your partner and your wife? Because she has understanding of arm wrestling. She's an actress. You mentioned she does some stuff. How important is your wife to your career and being able to travel and do that and understand the sort of how it all works? Like how important has she been in your whole development of your career?
Jody and I have been together since high school. Okay. Wow. So we've been partners for our entire life. We've been through so much. We've been through, highs and lows. We did an entire military career together, which in itself is quite a feat. Most couples don't last through military careers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're very lucky together. We've built our lives together. We support each other, and whatever we're trying to do, like I try and support her as best I can with her acting, and she supports me, and it's having you got another player on your team, and a wife or a husband. It's a big piece in your life, right? It's a very big piece. And Jody, I'm a lucky guy. I'm a very lucky guy. Jody's always supported me, and she feeds me, and she takes care of me in all the ways that she can. And even when I compete, Jody definitely makes a difference.
Right.
Yeah, when Jody corners. So the corner person in arm wrestling is a couple things. So a corner person is a different set of eyes, and they can advise you technically, right? They can tell you what they see. I don't need that. I don't need that. At the level I'm at, it's not going to be probably Jody who advises me. It might be some, like John could corner me, or some other high level arm wrestler might be able to be like, hey Devon, this guy's doing this. You might not have caught it, but it's not really what I need. What I really need is a voice. I need a voice. I need a strong voice to attack my opponent. I need a strong voice to attack the crowd. I need a strong voice to attack the referee. And this is where Jody really excels. Jody is very powerful at controlling people. She's very good at it.
Right.
Yeah. So through her voice, she can influence the tide a little bit, and just be another influence. Yeah, she's quite powerful. The last match was especially good. That was at East versus West in Turkey. Oh, they hated her. They almost tried to do a rule change. They might actually do a rule change about Jody.
She was causing havoc. That's
the thing. If you are the cause of a rule change, you know that you're doing it right.
Right. That's powerful. How influential is a referee? Because in soccer, NBA, you hear about matches, this and that, and this, and then you always wonder, right? And of course, there's a human element to it. Oh, PK called, or a foul called, or kind of nuance. How much variance does a referee? Do they have any impact on the matches, or a lot, a little, some?
They can have a massive influence. They can, like potentially. And that's an interesting thing. I mean, arm wrestling rules, tightness, looseness, the rules, the way they're written, they can very much impact the match. Now, different leagues have different kind of cultures again. In my opinion, a good arm wrestling referee has very little power. This is what I believe is the most fair system. You see some leagues, for example, like World Arm Wrestling Federation. It's the amateur world league. The reffing is notoriously very strict and very tight.
Mm-hmm.
And so what that means is a lot of matches will result in winners by foul out. Okay, so if there's a slight infraction of the rules, a person can win or lose based off of referee's decision or based off of infractions. Typically, the higher up you go in the professional leagues, the rules become slightly softened, and they look at things like intent and advantage gained, where it's more of a gray area, and the referees have to be very competent and experienced. If things are very black and white, the rules make a huge difference. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. What about you've reached the top of the sport in arm wrestling. What other sports did you play as a kid? And have you considered ever playing like hockey or American football? You know, I just feel like the size, the strength, it could be like this guy you mentioned as well is 420 pounds. Like just a tank. Like, couldn't he be like a lineman for the NFL team or something? It feels
probably.
like. Yeah.
Probably. There's a lot of high level athletes in the sport. I started off in judo when I was a kid. I grew up on a farm, so just doing chores and stuff. And actually, I think I probably started off falling in love with bodybuilding. I read Pumping Iron when I was like 5 years old, and I was like, oh, I want to be like Arnold, you know. I did judo. I played a lot of basketball. I ended up playing international ball for a bit on the military team for CISM. I did like long distance kind of running, which doesn't really fit the profile that much, but like Ironman kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I won the military Ironman when I was like 24, 25. Pretty much basketball. I did a little bit of mixed martial arts for a while, but arm wrestling, I've always loved it. I don't know, like I kind of always knew it was my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And the older I got and the further I went, the more everything just kind of fell off until I was just left with just training my right arm 3 times a day.
I love it. And I don't know if you can even answer this, but I would imagine a lot of your opponents are intimidated by you. Have you ever met an opponent who intimidated you? A lot of scary characters out there. My dad actually asked this question. He makes some notes on my podcast, and he's like, man, there's some guys look so, you know, like just like, or someone you don't know, right? Maybe comes out of nowhere, you're at a competition, you look at a guy and he's massive and just looks like a tank. Like, have you ever been, you must do most of the intimidating, I would imagine, but do you ever get intimidated? Or can you not, don't, I guess you really answer that maybe even.
I mean, I don't really feel like I get intimidated that much. I mean, it's arm wrestling, like, you know, like
right.
There's not a lot of really bad stuff that can happen. I mean, you do put your arm on the line, like you can get your body ripped apart. Like you can get your arm broke, you can get your hand crushed, you can get your muscles tore. All this is true.
Have you had, what's the worst injury you've had, and what's the worst injury that you've assigned?
Well, for me that I have, the worst one is probably chronic, okay? Because I'm like a chronic overtrainer, okay? Like I do it way too much. So I've developed some nasty overuse injuries, which I've had surgery for, and, you know, I've managed them, but, you know, that's probably about the worst. Levon, the guy we've been talking about, he tore my bicep. That was about 6 months ago. It's healing well. No problems.
This is the Georgia guy?
Yeah.
Where was that? Where was that, in Dubai, or which one was that?
That was King of the Table. Yeah.
And is that when you go to that, is that the final? How does it, can you explain? I meant to ask this again. I have so many questions. I know we only have so much time, but like when you go to a tournament, is it like 1v1 and you go to the top, or is it like you are assigned a few matches, or is it elimination? How do those work?
there's a ranking. Okay, so there's like a world ranking for arm wrestling, and apart from the rankings, there are recognized champions. Okay, so a champion of a division. Okay, so something might be for a world title. Okay, because the person has the hammer or has the shield or whatever the league deems as its number one holder has. And then there's like panels that rank all the athletes. So a lot of times it's for ranking or it's for world title. And I mean, that's typically what it is. It's like you kind of plot your journey through the arm wrestling world. You're like, okay, say I'm ranked number 7 in like, the 100-kilo division in North America. Okay, not even the world. Say I'm number 7, 100-kilo North America. So I'm looking at 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 very closely. And I might try and get those matches actively. I might really try and seek those out where I can somehow negotiate with a promoter somehow, or negotiate with them directly. Hey, meet me here. I'll put $500 on the table. We'll go at it. These are the rules we'll use. So a lot of it is very independent. But when you start to talk about the number 1 in the world, in divisions, the leagues will be all over those. Everybody will want a piece of those. Everybody will want to have it at their events. So they'll probably be calling you. They'll probably be bidding on it. Yeah. And then I don't want to discount the tournaments because there's a good chance there's going to be a resurgence, and they're always around. Some promoter will just be like, I want to have a big event, and they'll put $50,000 on the table and be like, winner gets 30, second place gets 15, whatever. And it'll just be an open show, and everybody will go, and it'll be potentially a double elimination tournament where you got to lose twice and then you're out, but you'll just, make your way through the class, and you might end up in the finals, and then who knows, you can win or whatever, walk away with some money.
Making at the finals, or is that not allowed? Or people because in poker there's final tables, big money. Some tours allow you to make deals where you can split appropriate to your chip stack. Like in a tournament like this, I don't know. You said let's just say 50,000.
Oh, nobody's doing that.
No deal making. No. Okay.
Nobody is deal making. No.
Right.
Well, actually, that's not true. Okay. Sometimes what'll happen is like, say, teammates. Okay. So I got a guy, Pork Chop. Okay. He's like my number 1 training partner. So say the two of us went to a tournament and there was money. So quite often what would happen is, to give us both the best chance of making money, I might
a piece or something, or like,
well, I would.
Yeah,
I'd lose my first match against him on purpose, and I'd clean up the B side. It would push him further, and he would lose the next one against me. It's like we wouldn't maybe fight in the event, And guys do
so
that.
That's a lot. That's like just open. That's like a open strategy. There's nothing because there's no way to prevent it. So I guess it doesn't really. It's like you can be honest
really do
about it or whatever, right?
But I've never been like at a tournament where like it's 2 guys in the finals and they're like, let's split it. No, never.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I could see that being the case, or the other side also. But yeah, I guess it just depends. I mean, obviously, I have a couple more last questions, really, even though I have so many. But I'm curious about, first off, your team. Like what you said, your wife obviously an intricate part of that, but you have a manager, a coach, and for your YouTube. Like, what goes into your overall? You being the champion you are, like who's part of your team?
I'm very much just like a roaming human, like just a guy who roams the world arm wrestling. Like I kind of go wherever, I go from club to club training. My home is Ottawa. So I belong to the Ottawa High Hookers. Okay. That's our team. We train 3 nights a week in Ottawa. It's open to the public. Anybody can come. You have to find us. We're not easy to find, but if you find us, you're welcome in the door. But I travel a lot. So I'll travel a lot locally. So like all around Ontario, I'll hit all the clubs, and I'll go international a lot. And I'll just go. I don't always just go to compete. I'll go just to travel and train.
Mm-hmm.
And
how many days of the year would you say you're on the road typically? Like
I'd say
out of your home?
Less than half. half
So,
half
wow.
when I get busy, it's a lot. Like when I like a busy month, I might be gone for like 3 weeks of each month. Sometimes it gets pretty busy. But I'm comfortable with a little less than half is good for me. When I'm at home, typically I'll get stronger.
Mhm.
Yeah, and when I'm on the road, I have fun and I get stronger in a different way. But when I'm at home in my routine, that's ideal.
And do you have a manager, an agent, booking? You said you kind of roam and do your own thing. Like what?
I
Like do you
don't.
have a coach? Do you
I
have a
don't.
coach?
The thing is, I've had a lot of coaches.
Okay.
I've had a lot of coaches, but the level I'm at in the sport now, I mean, I listen to people.
Hmm.
I listen to people. I listen to the community. I listen to other athletes, but really the best way to put it is my next opponent is my coach.
Right.
Yeah,
Makes sense. And
yeah.
do you commentate or coach? Do you ever go to events? Is there commentators calling these? Is it on paper? Is it on YouTube? Like where is that a part of it? Where you or do you people ask you for coaching and you train them?
So
Ever?
yeah. So I mean, I go to events in all sorts of capacities. As an athlete, as a promoter, as a referee, as a commentator, I do lots of different roles in the community. When it comes to coaching and training, I go all over the world and I do seminars.
Mm.
So I'll go all over. I'll talk to big groups. I'll do one-on-one work. I feel like when I'm at all these clubs, I mean, typically I'm the senior guy, so I will guide athletes. I'm very hesitant to put out like kind of like a prescription on how to train. I'm very hesitant. I more just kind of keep people up to date on the ideas that I'm playing with and the systems that I'm doing, and I just put it out there. I just put it out there, so if people are following me, they always kind of know how I'm training, and they can take it or leave it or whatever. Um, yeah,
Very
the
cool.
whole coaching side of it, I won't be surprised if as I get even older that I imagine I'll coach more. There's been a couple proposals of like across Canada kind of kids tours where we're doing like youth seminars all across Canada, which I'm super excited about. If it happens this year, that's great, but I'm sure it's going to happen eventually.
Right. Very cool. My last question for you is content, social media, the YouTube channel that's grown. You got a lot of loyal subscribers, followers. When did this first start? Was this something natural for you? Do you enjoy it? Tell me about YouTube content and social media for you.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it started as a photo journal, basically.
Mhm.
Um, I never had any intentions of doing really anything with it. I just kind of had it as a place to document some of my lifts and then from there we started to have some fun with it. We started to do some funny skits and but it's been really relaxed, really casual. It's more of a blog for me. It's more of a just a way for me to journal and
Yeah.
document. Yeah, because my memory's terrible. Like I
Yeah.
can't tell you what happened last week, but if I go back onto my YouTube channel, I can remember.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because I started a YouTube channel in 2017. I've streamed on Twitch for many years. A couple years before that, but before, and then my friend of mine was telling me about YouTube, and I started thinking about. I was like, yeah, it's in a way, it's like it is like a journal because like you mentioned even going to Afghanistan, it's like a blur. 7 trips, right? You go to these
Yeah,
tournaments, you travel the world. You're in Dubai for this time, that time, another time. These different stops. It kind of all starts like, all right, like what happened, what was going on, and now you look back and you can scroll through here, and your
yeah,
kids, for yourself, you get older, 20 years, 10 years, it's like, oh wow, like yeah, this happened, that happened. There's a document, it's a recording, it's a memory, it's a stamp. It's like a more exciting journal, as you put it. That's how I look at my same thing. I
yeah,
love that part of it
yeah,
because you get the memories and you get to
yeah.
remember. So
And
yeah.
it's gotten to a place where it opens doors for me, and it's gotten to a place where it gives me freedom.
Yep.
It's because of my YouTube a lot that I'm able to do exactly what I want to do with my life. And I just document it a little bit and
Well, yeah, it looks like, I mean, you got gear, you have some fans that come in and support and apparel. So like, yeah, you've basically made a business and lifestyle out of what you love, which is super cool. I mean, that's it's a dream, right? You get to do what you love and grow and learn and expand. And it seems like you got a nice network. And again, it seems like it's just starting, right? Like things it's exponentially growing. There's new leagues, new money, new sponsors, new opportunities. So it sounds like it's in pretty good health, the industry that's growing. Is that fair to say? It's growing rapidly?
It is. When I get, we're making a deck of cards.
Okay.
When I get it, I'll send you a deck.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's very, very cool. Yeah, if you add it to the store, I'll buy some myself. You know, we'll use that for our home games here, and I do really appreciate it. You know, it's really I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy. I think even now you're about to head out on the road. So
I am,
yeah. Wish you a ton of success, and I will check out the unarmed bet. It looks like again we have the tie with State Kings, and I know I'd seen this on here, but it's really cool that we got connected. And again, you can do this on bet as well on the website.
And please stay in touch, and we'll have to get together and teach me about poker. Yeah.
Hey, listen, get me on the arm. I don't know if I have hope. Like I can't even put my biceps on the camera. It'd be embarrassing, but I do need to get back in the gym, and I'd love to learn some basic exercises to get to buffing up a bit and do that. That would be pretty cool. So I'd love to learn.
I was looking you up a little bit. Your address, I wasn't really sure. Are you in Florida, or are you up in you're in Florida? Yeah.
Miami,
okay. Oh, that's great. Okay, listen, I'm going to be in Miami sometime over the next few months.
Well, listen, you're welcome to stay. Welcome to come hang out. We'll definitely get a dinner. I don't know if I saw those pancake routines. I don't. Maybe we'll have to. Actually, as I said last question, but tell me about the diet, because is it? Do you eat like a crazy amount of calories? Is that something where are you always hungry, or is it noticeable, or are you pretty regular in terms of diet?
My diet has been all over the place over my life. I was very proud of myself that I ate more than anybody for many, many years. I used to just gorge. Most of my life I've been gorging. Most of it. Yeah. The last I'd say, within the last 2 years, it got really crazy. Like, when I was really going, like, so I was world champ in 2008 to like 2012. And then I kind of ducked down into a weight division for many years. 2017, 18, I once again tried to make a climb for the super heavyweight division, which culminated kind of last year. And from like 2020, 21 to like sometime last year, oh my God, like I hurt myself. Mm-hmm. I hurt myself with the amount I was eating. It was just stupid.
Right. Is that something too, like do you feel looking back that over the course of your entire career that you could optimize more with the right supplements or the right nutrition versus like just pile loading like pancakes and cookies or whatever? You know what I mean? Like, was it could it have been better in terms of nutrition, or is it sort of like you're a furnace and you just need to get calories in? It doesn't matter so much on what you're eating.
It's both. Obviously you can always do better with nutrition, right. But if you can't, the extra calories will help you.
Right. Well, I lived with Michael Phelps for 7 years, from 2008 till 2015.
Oh, wow.
He was, I was always amazed how much he ate. There was this thing that got put out where it was like 12,000 calories a day or something, which isn't true. But like he did eat, it was the same thing. He eat cookie dough ice cream, and his diet was just kind of like he was a furnace. So it was like he had to put it in. But even looking as he got older and to compete with the swimming world, like, you had to kind of tighten it up a bit on like the quality of doing. But I'd imagine it's similar.
It is similar. Yeah, for sure. Like you want to eat well, but at the same time, you got to eat.
It can't all be broccoli and no gluten and whatever. No. You got to get it down somehow. So, well, listen, again, I wish you continued success. This has been definitely a treat. I hope everyone has enjoyed and learned something new. And again, I have so many questions. We'll have to have you on again, and I'd love to trade. We could definitely help each other, I'm sure, respectively in our niche niche stuff that we do and love. So I look forward to you coming to Miami, and if I get up that way to Montreal, get up there a fair amount, not too far, I could try to link up there as well.
Give me a buzz. We'll come down and party.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much. And everyone, please follow my man on all the socials. He is an absolute crusher. Devon Larratt, absolute legend, world champion. And we appreciate the time. We'll see you again very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Stay in touch.